Every evening, the playground of Greenfield Elementary became quiet except for the gentle sounds of swings moving in the wind and the soft rustle of leaves. But one presence made this playground different from any other. A dog, large and brown with soft fur, slept under the bright yellow slide. The children had noticed him weeks ago, yet nobody knew where he had come from or why he stayed there every night. They had named him Shadow, for he appeared silently and vanished silently when the morning came. Mia, a young girl with short hair and bright eyes, was curious about him. She had always loved animals, and there was something about Shadow that made her heart ache. She watched him from the edge of the playground, hiding behind the swings because she did not want to scare him. Shadow's breathing was slow and steady, but his eyes occasionally opened, shining in the dim light, watching the world around him. "Why do you stay here every night?" Mia whispered softly, imagining that the dog could hear her. She had often wondered if he was lonely or hungry. The playground was empty now, and the evening sky painted orange streaks across the clouds. The swings creaked gently as the wind moved them, and the slide reflected the last rays of sunlight. Shadow, still under it, looked calm but somehow very sad. Mia decided she could not just watch from a distance anymore. She ran home quickly and returned with a small blanket she had borrowed from her room and a piece of bread her mother had given her. She placed the blanket carefully under the slide and sat a little away, leaving the bread near Shadow's nose. Shadow lifted his head slowly. His ears twitched and he looked at the bread. Then he looked at Mia with his deep brown eyes, as if questioning her intentions. Mia held her hands out calmly. "It's okay, Shadow. I just want to help you," she whispered. The dog hesitated for a moment, but finally nudged the bread with his nose and began to eat. Mia smiled quietly. She had seen many dogs before, but something about Shadow was different. He was not just a pet. He had a presence, a quiet dignity that made everyone who saw him feel a mixture of sadness and respect. The way he moved, the way he rested, everything told Mia that this dog had a story she wanted to know. The next morning, Mia tried to ask her classmates about him, but most had only seen him in passing. Some whispered that he must be a stray, while others said he looked too clean and strong to be homeless. A boy named Liam said, maybe he ran away from someone's house. Another girl, Sarah, added, but if he belonged to someone, why would he sleep under a slide every night? Mia thought about these words as she walked to school. She could not stop thinking about Shadow. She decided she would visit the playground every day after school, bringing food, water, or anything he might need. She wanted to understand him, to see if she could help him. That evening, as the sky turned golden and the air smelled like fresh grass, Mia approached the slide slowly. Shadow was already there, lying in his usual spot. His eyes opened as she came closer, but he did not move away. Mia placed a bowl of water near him and sat down at a safe distance. "You must be tired, Shadow," she said softly. "I will sit here with you. You are not alone tonight." The dog seemed to understand. He lifted his head slightly and then rested it on his paws. The two of them stayed like that, in quiet companionship, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the first stars appeared in the sky. Days passed and Mia continued her routine. Sometimes other children joined her, leaving small treats for Shadow or just watching him from a distance. Slowly, the playground became a little brighter. Not because of the sun, but because of the love the children showed. Shadow began to wag his tail slightly when he saw Mia. He even allowed some of the braver children to pet him gently. One afternoon, Mia asked her teacher, Mr. Lewis, about Shadow. "Mr. Lewis," she said, "why does Shadow sleep under the slide every night? Don't dogs have homes?" Mr. Lewis paused and looked thoughtful. "Sometimes, Mia. Dogs choose where they feel safest. Maybe Shadow has been through something difficult. Dogs can feel fear and sadness just like humans. He might not have a home right now, or maybe he is waiting for someone." Mia nodded, her heart aching. She wanted to know more. She wanted to help him, but she also knew that some stories were not easy to hear. That night she brought Shadow a soft towel and a little more bread. Shadow ate quietly and then rested his head on the towel. Mia stayed there talking to him softly, telling him stories about her day. Shadow listened with calm eyes, his tail moving slowly as if he understood her words. The other children started noticing changes too. They saw Shadow's gentle behavior and how he responded to kind gestures. Slowly, fear turned into admiration. He was no longer just the lonely dog under the slide. He became a silent guardian of the playground. The swings, the slides, and the trees seemed to welcome him as if they understood that he was special. One evening, a little boy named Noah approached Mia. "Do you think Shadow had a family before?" "Maybe someone loved him once," he asked quietly. Mia thought about it. "I think he did. But maybe something happened and now he stays here because he feels safe with us," she replied, her eyes filled with sadness but also determination. She wanted to find out Shadow's story. That night, as the moon rose high and the stars twinkled like tiny diamonds, Shadow lay under the slide, resting on the blanket Mia had left. Mia sat beside him, whispering softly, "You are not alone, Shadow. I promise you will never be alone." Something about the night felt different. The air was calm, and Shadow seemed more relaxed than ever before. Mia realized that even without knowing his full story, love and kindness could make a difference. Shadow's eyes slowly closed and he fell asleep, feeling safe for the first time in a long while. Mia stayed there until it was time to go home. She looked at Shadow one last time. His chest rose and fell gently with every breath, and the moonlight highlighted the soft brown of his fur. She whispered, "Tomorrow I will come again. I will stay with you." As she walked home, Mia felt a mix of sadness and hope. She knew that Shadow had been through struggles she could not yet understand, but she also knew that he was not forgotten, and that his story was just beginning to unfold. The playground, once empty and quiet, now held a promise that no one would ignore the lonely, that love could reach even the most silent hearts. Shadow, the gentle dog under the slide, had found a friend in Mia. And for the first time in a long while, he felt that someone cared, that someone would stay. The children of Greenfield Elementary continued to watch Shadow, each of them learning lessons of kindness and patience. They did not know the full story yet, but they felt it in their hearts. Shadow had become more than a dog. He had become a symbol of quiet strength, trust, and the power of simple, everyday compassion. And so, night after night, Shadow continued to sleep under the slide, but with a new sense of safety. Mia and the other children stayed close, bringing light to his quiet nights and warmth to his tired body. They did not yet know the truth of Shadow's past, but they could feel it in the sadness that lingered in his eyes, and they promised themselves that one day they would uncover the story behind those eyes and help him find the happiness he truly deserved. The next morning, Mia woke up early with a feeling she could not explain. Shadow's eyes had stayed in her mind all night. They were gentle yet full of stories she did not yet know. She could not wait to see him again. She packed a small bag with a few slices of bread, a bottle of water, and a small towel she had washed and folded neatly. She wanted to make sure Shadow would feel safe and cared for. When Mia arrived at the playground, she saw that the swing swayed gently in the morning breeze. The sun had just started to rise, casting golden light on the slides and the swings. But the spot under the yellow slide where Shadow usually slept was empty. Mia's heart skipped a beat. She called softly, "Shadow?" After a moment, she heard a soft bark, and Shadow came running from behind the trees near the playground's edge. He wagged his tail, but there was something in his eyes that made Mia pause. He looked tired, more than usual, and his fur seemed a little dirty. She ran to him and knelt down. "It's okay, Shadow. I brought breakfast for you," she said, offering him the bread. Shadow sniffed the bread, then looked at Mia as if he understood her words. He ate slowly, glancing around to make sure no one was watching. Mia noticed how careful he was, as if he had to be alert all the time. Her heart ached. She wanted to help him feel safe, to take away the worry that seemed to shadow him wherever he went. Later that day, Mia could not stop thinking about Shadow. She asked her mother, "Do you think he is a stray?" Her mother shook her head. "Maybe not, Mia. Stray dogs often look hungry or sick, but Shadow seems strong and healthy. Sometimes dogs that have homes still run away or sleep somewhere they feel safe. Maybe he is like that." Mia nodded, but she still had questions. She wanted to know Shadow's story. She decided to ask her teacher, Mr. Lewis, after school. When the final bell rang, Mia hurried to him. "Mr. Lewis, why does Shadow sleep under the slide every night? Doesn't he have a home?" Mr. Lewis looked thoughtful. "Dogs sometimes choose their own places, Mia, but you are right. A dog should not have to sleep outside alone. Perhaps he is lost, or perhaps someone is not able to take care of him properly. You should be careful, though. Not every dog wants human attention." Mia nodded. "I will be careful, sir. I just want to help him." That afternoon, Mia returned to the playground with a plan. She wanted to learn more about Shadow, and she wanted to show him that he was safe. She brought the towel she had washed in the morning and placed it carefully under the slide. Then she sat down at a little distance, watching him closely. Shadow came slowly, sniffing the towel and looking at Mia with his calm, deep eyes. Mia spoke softly, telling him about her day. "I learned about butterflies today, Shadow. They are small but very strong, just like you, I think." Shadow tilted his head slightly as if listening carefully. The gentle sound of his breathing, mixed with the whisper of the wind, created a quiet moment that Mia would never forget. Soon, some of the other children noticed Shadow as well. Liam and Sarah came to the playground after school. "Look, it's the dog under the slide," Liam whispered to Sarah. "Do you think he is hungry?" Sarah nodded. "He must be. Let's leave some water and snacks for him too. Maybe he will trust us more," Mia smiled. She felt relieved that other children cared about Shadow as well. Together they placed a small bowl of water near him and left a few pieces of bread. Shadow sniffed everything carefully but did not move away. Instead, he stayed calm, as if he could sense their kindness. The children began visiting Shadow every day after school. Some read books aloud, while others drew pictures of him on paper. Shadow seemed to enjoy their presence. He would lie down, resting his head on his paws while the children talked quietly or laughed softly. He never barked aggressively or tried to run away. Somehow he understood that they only wanted to help. One afternoon, while Mia was brushing her hand along Shadow's fur, she noticed a small scar above his right eye. It was faint, but it told her that Shadow had been through something difficult. She wondered if he had been hurt before, maybe while working or protecting someone. Her heart ached even more. "I wonder who you are, Shadow," Mia whispered. "What did you do before coming here? Did you have a family? Were you brave?" Shadow looked at her with his soft eyes and licked her hand, as if he wanted her to know he trusted her. Mia decided she could not just guess anymore. She wanted to find answers. She started asking neighbors if they had seen a dog like Shadow. Most people shook their heads. Some said they had seen him occasionally, but nobody knew where he lived. This made Mia more determined. She wanted to find Shadow's story, to know why such a strong and gentle dog had ended up under the playground slide every night. Days passed, and Shadow's routine never changed. He arrived at the playground before sunset and rested under the slide until morning. Sometimes he chased squirrels or sniffed flowers near the playground. Sometimes he lay completely still, his eyes half closed, enjoying the peace of the evening. Mia and the children continued leaving food and water for him. Slowly, they felt a bond growing. Shadow was no longer just a lonely dog. He had become a friend, a silent companion who brought comfort and joy to the children. One evening, Mia noticed Shadow staring toward the far end of the playground. He growled softly, but it was not a mean growl. It was protective. Mia looked in the direction he was watching, but she could not see anything unusual. "Is someone there, Shadow?" she asked softly. Shadow's ears twitched, and he stayed alert, watching the area carefully. Mia realized that Shadow might have been a guard or protector before. He seemed to know instinctively when something was not right. That night, Mia stayed longer than usual. She talked to Shadow quietly, telling him stories about her friends, her school, and her family. "You are very special, Shadow," she whispered. "I think everyone should know how brave and kind you are." Shadow rested his head on her lap, and Mia felt the weight of his trust. He had chosen her as his friend, and she promised silently that she would not let him feel lonely again. The children started noticing changes in themselves too. They learned patience by waiting quietly while Shadow approached. They learned kindness by bringing food and water. They learned respect by understanding that not every creature could speak, but every creature had feelings. Shadow was teaching them lessons that no classroom could teach. One day, Liam asked Mia, "Do you think Shadow had a family before? Maybe someone loved him once, but something happened?" Mia nodded slowly. "I think so. And maybe he is waiting to find that love again. Or maybe he feels safe with us for now. I want to know his story and I want to help him." Night after night, Mia and the children visited Shadow. They laughed softly, told stories, and sometimes just sat quietly beside him. Shadow learned to trust humans again, little by little. His tail wagged more often, his eyes seemed calmer, and he even let the children play near him without fear. One evening, as the sky turned pink and the stars appeared, Mia whispered, "Tomorrow, I will bring a new blanket for you, Shadow. You deserve to be warm and safe." Shadow looked at her, his eyes soft and trusting. He nuzzled her hand gently as if he understood her promise. For the first time, Mia felt hope. She knew that Shadow was no ordinary dog. He had a story, a past filled with bravery and love, and she would find that story. She would help Shadow feel safe and happy, not just under a slide, but in a place where he truly belonged. The playground, once quiet and empty, had now become a place of trust and friendship. Shadow was no longer just a lonely dog. He had found friends who cared, children who were willing to give him time, love, and patience. And though the full truth of his past remained hidden, the bond between Shadow and the children grew stronger every day. Mia smiled as she left the playground that night. "You are not alone, Shadow," she whispered. "I will stay with you until you find happiness again." Shadow rested his head on the blanket she had brought, calm and peaceful for the first time in weeks. The gentle rustle of leaves and the soft evening breeze seemed to agree with Mia's words. The bond between the children and Shadow was growing, and every night, the playground became a place where love and hope could be felt even without words. Shadow had found friends who cared, and the children had found a friend who taught them courage, patience, and quiet strength. The story of Shadow, the dog under the slide, was just beginning, but already it was full of love, hope, and the promise that even the loneliest hearts could find safety and friendship. The following afternoon, the playground felt quieter than usual. The swing swayed gently in the soft breeze, and the trees cast long shadows across the grass. Shadow was lying under the yellow slide, his head resting on the blanket Mia had brought. He lifted his ears slightly at every sound, alert and careful. Mia sat nearby as she always did, watching him quietly. Suddenly, a man appeared at the edge of the playground. He looked tired, with a heavy coat and a notebook clutched in one hand. His eyes were searching, scanning the area carefully, and when they landed on Shadow, something seemed to change in his expression. Shadow's ears perked up immediately, and he rose to his feet. His tail wagged, slow but deliberate, and he began moving toward the man with cautious joy. Mia froze for a moment. She had never seen Shadow react to anyone like this before. The man knelt down slowly, speaking softly, and Shadow rushed to him, nuzzling his hand and barking happily. It was the first time Mia had heard Shadow bark in such joy. The dog seemed different, as if a part of his heart had recognized something familiar. The man looked up and noticed Mia sitting nearby. He smiled gently. "Hello," he said softly. "I hope I am not disturbing you. I just came for Shadow." Mia felt her heart skip a beat. "He is Shadow," she said. "We have been taking care of him every day after school." The man nodded. "I can see that. He has been very lucky to have you." His eyes were soft but tired. He knelt down again and stroked Shadow's head. Shadow leaned into his touch, his tail wagging faster. Mia watched in silence, her curiosity growing. "Who are you?" she asked carefully. "And why does Shadow seem to know you?" The man took a deep breath and said, "My name is Mr. Reed. I work at the local police station. Shadow is not a regular dog. He was my partner." Mia's eyes widened. "Your partner?" she repeated. "Yes," Mr. Reed said. "Shadow was trained as a canine police dog. He worked with me for many years. He helped me in dangerous situations and saved many lives. He was brave and loyal, the best partner I could have asked for. But something happened, and now I cannot take care of him in the same way." Mia could not believe what she was hearing. Shadow, the gentle dog under the slide, had been a hero. She looked at him with new eyes. The scars she had noticed above his right eye and on his paws suddenly made sense. Shadow had been through something extraordinary, something most people could not imagine. Mr. Reed continued. "A few months ago I had an accident. It made it impossible for me to continue working as a police officer. Shadow was retired along with me, but I had to leave town for work, and I could not take him with me safely. I did not want him to end up in a shelter, so I brought him here. He chose this playground because it felt safe, and he stayed because he trusted children." Mia's eyes filled with tears. She had been helping Shadow, thinking he was lonely and lost, but the truth was far more emotional. Shadow had been a hero, and now he had found comfort under the slide, waiting for someone to care for him. "Why did he stay here?" Mia asked softly. "If he had a home, why sleep under a slide?" Mr. Reed looked at Shadow, who had now settled at his feet, his head resting on Mr. Reed's shoe. "Shadow is special," he said. "Even the bravest heroes need a place to rest, a place where they feel safe. This playground became that place for him. He waited here for kindness, and thankfully, he found it in you and your friends." Mia knelt down slowly and reached out to pet Shadow. He looked at her and wagged his tail, leaning into her hand. She could feel his trust, the connection that had grown over weeks of care and patience. "You are a hero, Shadow," she whispered. "You have done so much, and now we are taking care of you." Mr. Reed smiled faintly. "I am glad someone saw him the way he deserved." Many people overlook the sacrifices of canine officers, but Shadow has given more than most humans could. Mia felt a mixture of sadness and pride. She wanted to ask more questions, to learn everything about Shadow, but she could see the quiet strength in him. He had lived through challenges she could not even imagine, and now he deserved peace. Over the next few days, Mr. Reed visited the playground regularly. He told Mia and the other children stories about Shadow's work. They learned how he had helped rescue people trapped in dangerous situations, how he had sensed danger before humans could, and how he had been brave even when scared. Shadow would listen calmly, sometimes lifting his head as if remembering those days. The children were amazed. They had been spending time with a real hero. They felt pride and respect for Shadow, and their bond with him grew stronger. They realized that bravery was not just in fighting danger, but in loyalty, love, and trust. Shadow had all of these qualities, and he had chosen them, the children, to share his quiet moments of peace. One evening, after Mr. Reed left, Mia stayed longer than usual. Shadow rested his head on her lap, his eyes half closed. "You are amazing, Shadow," she whispered. "You saved so many lives, and now you are saving hearts too." Shadow nuzzled her gently, and Mia felt a warmth she could not explain. He had gone through so much, yet he still had love to give. Mia thought about how important it was to help those who had given so much. Shadow had been a hero, and now it was the children's turn to be heroes for him. They could give him comfort, love, and safety. They could make sure he never felt alone again. Mr. Reed returned one day with a small bag. "I brought something for Shadow," he said, smiling. He took out a soft bed and some toys. Shadow sniffed everything carefully, then wagged his tail, clearly pleased. The children cheered quietly, happy to see him happy. "This is just the beginning," Mr. Reed said. "I will find a permanent safe home for Shadow soon. But until then, he can stay here, and you can all help me make sure he feels loved every day." Mia hugged Shadow gently, feeling the softness of his fur against her cheek. "We will take care of you, Shadow," she whispered. "You are not alone anymore." As the sun set, casting golden light across the playground, Shadow lay on his new bed, surrounded by friends who cared deeply for him. He had known danger, bravery, and loyalty, but now he knew kindness and love as well. The playground, once just a place for play, had become a sanctuary, a place of trust and quiet happiness. That night, as the stars appeared one by one in the sky, Shadow rested peacefully. Mia and the other children sat nearby, reading stories softly and watching over him. They felt proud to be part of his story, and they knew that even heroes needed people who cared. Shadow's past had been full of adventure and courage, but his present was now full of love. The children understood that bravery was not only in facing danger, but in trusting others and finding comfort after hardship. Shadow had taught them that lesson, and they had embraced him not just as a dog, but as a true friend and hero. Mia whispered as she patted Shadow gently. "You have always been brave, Shadow, and now we will be brave for you too." Shadow lifted his head slightly and nuzzled her hand as if saying thank you. He had chosen them, just as they had chosen him, and together, they shared a quiet bond that no one could ever break. The playground, once empty and silent at night, was now filled with the gentle presence of friendship and trust. Shadow, the dog under the slide, had found a friend in Mia and the other children. But more than that, he had found safety, kindness, and a place to rest his brave heart. The story of Shadow was no longer a story of loneliness. It was a story of courage, trust, and the quiet power of love. And while the full truth of his past was only beginning to be shared, the children knew that Shadow's heart, like theirs, had found a home under the yellow slide. The next day, the playground felt different. There was a quiet excitement in the air as the children arrived after school. Shadow was already under the yellow slide, resting on the soft bed Mr. Reed had brought. His eyes lifted when he heard the familiar footsteps of Mia, Liam, Sarah, and a few other children who had begun visiting him every day. The dog wagged his tail slowly, sensing that today would be special. Mia approached Shadow first, kneeling down to stroke his soft fur. "Good afternoon, Shadow," she said gently. "We are going to spend time with you today." Shadow nuzzled her hand and blinked, his calm eyes reflecting trust and warmth. He had grown attached to Mia and the other children, but he still carried the quiet strength of a hero. Mr. Reed arrived shortly after, carrying a folder in his hands. He looked serious but kind. The children gathered around him curiously, wondering what he had to say. "Today," he began, "I want to tell you the full story of Shadow. You already know he has been brave and loyal, but there is more you should understand about him." The children listened intently as Mr. Reed continued. Shadow was trained as a canine police dog when he was very young. He learned to follow commands, find people, and sense danger. He became my partner because he was strong, smart, and very brave. Together we faced many challenges. Shadow saved people who were trapped in fires, helped find lost children, and even protected officers in dangerous situations. He was more than a dog. He was a true hero. Mia's eyes widened. She had known Shadow was special, but hearing the details made her heart swell with respect and admiration. She reached out and gently touched Shadow's head. The dog looked at her calmly, his eyes soft as if acknowledging her silent praise. Mr. Reed paused and took a deep breath. "A few months ago, I had an accident while on duty. It was serious enough that I could no longer work as a police officer. Shadow retired with me, but my family could not care for him properly while I was recovering. I did not want to send him to a shelter because I knew he deserved better. That is why I brought him here. He chose the playground because it felt safe, and he stayed because he trusted children like you." The children were silent for a moment, letting the weight of his words sink in. Shadow, who had always been calm, seemed to relax even more. His head rested on the soft bed, and his tail wagged slowly as if he understood that his story was finally being heard. Sarah, the youngest of the group, whispered, "He saved people." "Really?" "Yes," Mr. Reed said softly. "He saved lives and protected many people. Shadow has been a hero all his life. But even heroes need care, love, and comfort. That is why he stayed under the slide, waiting for kindness. And thankfully, he found it in you children." Mia's eyes filled with tears. She hugged Shadow gently, feeling the warmth of his fur against her cheek. "You have done so much, Shadow," she said quietly. "And now we will take care of you." Shadow licked her hand softly, a gesture of trust and gratitude. Mr. Reed continued, "Shadow's work was dangerous. He faced situations that most people could not imagine. He was brave even when he was scared. He trusted me completely and I trusted him. But after my accident, he needed a safe place to rest. He found that place here with children who showed him patience and love. That is a special kind of bravery too." The children listened, mesmerized by the story. They had always admired Shadow, but now they understood why. He had not only been strong and smart, but also loyal, patient, and trusting. Every scar on his body, every cautious movement had a story behind it. Mia looked around at the other children. "We can help him feel happy," she said softly. "We can make sure he knows he is loved every day." Mr. Reed smiled. "Yes, and that is very important. Shadow has always been loyal and brave, but now he needs love, comfort, and care more than anything else. That is the real reward for a hero." Over the next few days, the children worked together to make the playground a little haven for Shadow. They brought soft blankets, bowls of fresh water, and healthy treats. Sometimes they read stories to him, and sometimes they just sat quietly beside him, letting him feel their presence. Shadow responded to their kindness with calm, gentle eyes and soft tail wags. Mia noticed that Shadow seemed happier than before. He no longer lay with tense muscles or cautious eyes. Instead, he relaxed, trusting that these children and Mr. Reed would care for him. His body seemed to breathe easier and his movements were slower, more peaceful. One evening, as the sun began to set, Mr. Reed told the children more about Shadow's heroism. "There was one time," he said, "when Shadow helped save a family trapped in their house during a fire. The flames were high and smoke filled the rooms. Shadow led the family to safety, guiding them past danger. He never hesitated even when it was risky. That courage saved lives," the children gasped. Liam whispered, "He is more than a dog. He is a hero for real." "Yes," Mr. Reed said softly, "and heroes deserve respect, care, and love. That is why you have been helping him so much. Shadow may have been alone in the past, but now he has people who care. That is the greatest gift you can give him." Mia hugged Shadow again. "We will always care for you," she whispered. Shadow leaned into her gently as if promising to stay close and trust her. He had learned that kindness could be as powerful as bravery, and he could finally rest knowing he was safe. The playground had changed since Shadow had arrived. It was no longer just a place to play. It had become a place of trust, love, and understanding. The children had learned patience, responsibility, and the importance of caring for those who had given so much. Shadow had taught them that even heroes needed love, and in return, the children had given him a safe and gentle space to heal and feel joy again. Mia looked at Mr. Reed. "Can we do more for him?" she asked. "Can we make sure he is never alone again?" "Yes," Mr. Reed said with a gentle smile. "You can be his friends, his family in a way. Your care and love are very important to him. You are helping him find happiness again." That night, as the stars appeared one by one, Shadow rested peacefully under the yellow slide. His head lay on the soft blanket, his eyes half closed, and his breathing was calm. The children sat nearby, whispering softly and sharing stories. They felt proud to be part of Shadow's life, and they knew that even heroes needed care and love. Mia stroked Shadow's fur and whispered, "You are amazing, Shadow. You have done so much for others, and now we will make sure you are happy." Shadow leaned into her hand gently, a sign of trust and connection that only grew stronger each day. The playground, once just a place for play, had become a sanctuary. Shadow had found safety, kindness, and friendship. The children had found a hero who taught them courage, loyalty, and the power of gentle love. And in that quiet evening, with the soft breeze and the golden light, everyone felt a sense of peace. Shadow's past had been full of bravery, but his present was now full of warmth and care. The story of Shadow, the dog under the slide, was no longer only about loneliness or struggle. It was about heroism, love, and the deep bond that could grow between a dog and the children who saw him for who he truly was. Shadow had finally found the home he deserved, even if it was different from what anyone expected. Mia smiled as she watched Shadow resting peacefully. "You are never alone, Shadow," she whispered softly, "and we will always be here for you." Shadow lifted his head slightly and wagged his tail, a quiet acknowledgement that he understood. That night, the playground was filled with a new kind of light. Not the sunlight, not the swings or the slides, but the quiet warmth of love, trust, and friendship. Shadow had found his place, and the children had found a hero who would always remind them of courage and kindness. And in that moment, everyone knew that even the bravest hearts sometimes need gentle hands, caring voices, and the company of friends. Shadow, the canine hero, had finally found all of these, and the story of his courage and love would live in the hearts of Mia, the children, and everyone who learned about him. The morning sun shone brightly over Greenfield Elementary, casting long golden shadows across the playground. The yellow slide, the swings, and the small benches seemed to welcome the new day. Shadow, the gentle brown dog who had captured everyone's hearts, was already at his usual spot under the slide. He lifted his head as Mia approached, his eyes calm and trusting, and wagged his tail slowly. Mia carried a small bag filled with soft blankets, fresh water, and a few healthy treats. She knelt down beside Shadow, speaking softly. "Good morning, Shadow. Today will be a special day for you." Shadow sniffed the treats and then nudged her hand, his way of saying he understood. Over the past few weeks, the children had learned everything about Shadow's bravery. They had heard Mr. Reed's stories about how Shadow had saved lives, helped find lost children, and protected others in dangerous situations. The children had grown to admire him deeply, not only for his courage, but for his gentle and loyal heart. Mr. Reed arrived shortly after, carrying a small notebook and a folded blanket. His expression was calm but serious. "Today we are going to make sure Shadow has the future he deserves," he said. "He has already given so much, and now it is our turn to give back to him." The children gathered around, curiosity shining in their eyes. Liam whispered to Mia, "Do you think Shadow will finally have a proper home?" Mia nodded slowly. "Yes," she said softly. "He deserves it more than anyone." Mr. Reed began explaining the plan. "I have contacted a local organization that cares for retired canine officers. They understand Shadow's needs and will provide him with a safe and comfortable home. He will have a warm bed, food, toys, and people who respect his bravery. But before we take him there, I wanted all of you to spend time with him and let him know how much he is loved." The children's faces lit up. They had already grown attached to Shadow, and the thought of him leaving was bittersweet. but they knew it was for the best. They wanted him to be happy, safe, and loved, just as they had always wished. Mia reached out to Shadow. "You have been our friend, Shadow. And now, you will have more people who care for you. You will be happy, and that is what matters." Shadow nuzzled her hand, leaning into her gentle touch. He seemed to understand that something important was about to happen. Over the next few hours, the children played with Shadow. They ran around the playground together, threw a soft ball for him, and gently petted him as he rested. Shadow wagged his tail and barked softly in joy. The playground was alive with laughter and happiness. For the first time in a long while, Shadow seemed completely relaxed and carefree. Mr. Reed watched quietly, a small smile on his face. "Shadow has always been brave and loyal," he said. "Now it is time for him to experience love and comfort every day. You children have given him so much already. Your kindness has prepared him for this new beginning." Mia brought out the fresh blanket and placed it under the slide. "You can rest here a little longer before your new home, Shadow," she said. Shadow sniffed it and lay down, his head resting on the soft fabric. The children gathered around him, whispering softly and stroking his fur. As the afternoon came, a small van arrived at the playground. Inside were two people from the K9 organization. They had gentle voices, warm smiles, and a clear understanding of Shadow's past. They approached slowly, speaking softly to make Shadow feel comfortable. Shadow lifted his head, wagged his tail, and sniffed them carefully. Mia knelt beside him. "It is okay, Shadow. They will take care of you," she whispered. Shadow leaned against her, nuzzling her hand one last time before getting up to follow the people. His tail wagged, but his steps were steady, showing the trust he had in the children and in Mr. Reed. The children walked alongside Shadow to the van. Each of them patted him gently, offering words of love and encouragement. "You're amazing, Shadow," Liam said. "You will be happy now." Sarah whispered, "We will miss you, but we know you deserve the best." Mr. Reed knelt down one last time and stroked Shadow's head. "You have been my partner, Shadow. You have been brave and loyal all your life. Now it is time to rest, be safe, and feel love every day." Shadow leaned into him, his eyes soft and trusting. Before stepping into the van, the doors closed gently, and the van drove away, carrying Shadow to his new home. The children stood quietly, a mix of sadness and joy in their hearts. They knew that he was finally where he belonged. The playground felt emptier without him, yet it was filled with the memory of his gentle presence and the lessons he had taught them. Days passed, and the children often wondered how Shadow was doing. They received updates from the organization. Shadow had a warm bed, plenty of food, toys to play with, and kind people who understood his needs. He was happy, calm, and content, enjoying his new life while carrying the memories of the children who had loved him. Mia smiled as she read the updates. "He is happy," she whispered. "That is all that matters," Liam nodded. "We helped him and now he has a better life. That is the best feeling." The playground returned to its normal rhythm, but Shadow's presence was still felt. The yellow slide, the swings, and the trees seemed brighter, as if carrying the joy he had shared with the children. The lessons he had taught about bravery, loyalty, and the power of kindness remained in their hearts. One afternoon, Mia brought a small notebook to the playground. She began writing stories about Shadow, capturing every memory, every gentle moment, and every act of bravery. She wanted everyone to know the truth about the dog who had slept under the slide, the dog who had once been a hero, and the dog who had taught children the true meaning of love and trust. The other children joined her, adding their drawings and thoughts. They drew pictures of Shadow playing in the playground, of him resting peacefully, and of the moments they had shared. Together they created a small book, a tribute to the dog who had changed their lives. Mia looked at the yellow slide and smiled. "Shadow was never just a dog under a slide," she said softly. "He was our friend, our hero, and a teacher in his own way. We will always remember him." As the sun set over Greenfield Elementary, the playground felt peaceful and warm. The laughter of the children, the gentle sway of the swings, and the soft rustle of leaves carried a sense of hope and love. Shadow's story had begun with loneliness and bravery, and it had ended with trust, care, and a new beginning. Mr. Reed visited from time to time, bringing stories about Shadow's life in his new home. Shadow had grown calmer, happier, and even more trusting. He played with other dogs, enjoyed his toys, and spent his days in comfort. But he never forgot the children who had shown him kindness when he needed it most. Mia often spoke to her friends about what they had learned from Shadow. Even the bravest and strongest hearts sometimes need love and care, she said. Shadow taught us that courage is not only about facing danger. It is also about trusting others and accepting kindness. The children understood this deeply. They had witnessed a hero who had given so much, and they had learned that even small acts of love and patience could make a great difference in someone's life. Shadow had not only saved lives in his past work, but he had also touched their hearts, leaving a lasting impact. And so, the story of Shadow, the dog who slept under the yellow slide, came to a beautiful conclusion. He had found safety, happiness, and love, while the children had learned lessons they would carry forever. They knew that heroes came in many forms, and sometimes the greatest hero was the one who had the gentlest heart. Shadow's journey had begun with loneliness, courage, and trust, and it ended with joy, care, and a new beginning. The playground remained a place of laughter and love, forever carrying the memory of the dog who had once rested quietly under the slide and changed the lives of everyone around him. Mia smiled as she watched the sunset. "You are happy now, Shadow," she whispered softly, "and that is the best ending we could ever hope for."